I can't hear anything.
The radio, I'm working with folks just like you to help them buy and sell homes. I'm proud to say that my team, the Baker Realty Group, has been helping people buy and sell homes in the greater Sun Prairie area for over 10 years. Information about buying and selling a home is available on my website, thebakerrealtygroup.com, on Facebook by searching the Baker Realty Group, or by calling 608-575-6731. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy the Sun Prairie Real Estate Show with Bill Baker and Laura Stanfield. Brought to you by the Baker Realty Group.
Welcome to the Sun Prairie Real Estate Show with your host, Bill Baker.
Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Wednesday. We made it to Hump Day today, and finally, I don't know if we're going to float away here in Wisconsin or what's going to happen, but it's a cold, chilly day. You know, we get teased by that 70-degree temperatures, and now we're back to the rain, and it is something else. Don't know about this weather, but you know, boys basketball is over, so you know that the snow is gone, and we didn't get that big snowfall that we historically received. So it's that's out of the way. Now watch me say that, and then it'll happen again. But now let's hope not. Keep your fingers crossed. This morning, we've got a great show. We've got a special guest, and I'm excited to talk to this gentleman. We're going to be talking about historic homes and luxury homes, and I have an expert. I have a specialist in both those categories. His name is Larry Lawfer, and he is from Massachusetts, and we were finding some common ground earlier before we came out of the air, and so it's going to be a lot of fun to chat with Larry. As you know, Laura and I set this show up to be educational, to be filled with information that would help you in the way of buying, selling, or investing in real estate. And every week we try to bring you a unique view of what's going on in real estate, and especially right now. But I will tell you, there are some great buys, there's some great sales that are going on that are in the market, we're going to talk about some luxury stuff that, now you may not be a luxury buyer, you may not be a luxury seller, but you need to know the trend. You need to see what's happening and understand it from a full perspective. Of course, if you ever have a question, you can always reach out to Laura or myself at any time, and we're happy to help you with all that information. But hey, you're listening to 103.5 WLSP, The Sun, right here in beautiful Sun Prairie, and part of the Sun Prairie Media Center. We're underwritten by those wonderful folks at the Bank of Sun Prairie, the Baker Realty Group, and of course, Wintrust Mortgage. And with that, I need to introduce to you the greatest mortgage banker there ever was, the most amazing, the beautiful Laura Stanfield from Wintrust Mortgage. Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm glad you made it.
Rainy morning.
Glad you made it.
Yeah, me too.
You're killing me.
You're killing me, Smalls.
You're killing me, Smalls. You know, you do that coming in hot stuff. I know you're a busy woman, though.
I have a standing thing.
A standing thing.
Yeah, and usually we're right on track, but some days,
Yeah.
those days,
Yeah, it's a crack above.
Of what?
Adjusted here, crack there.
Right.
Hey, tell us what's going on in the world of lending and mortgages. That has been like the craziest thing I've ever been a part of lately, watching rates go up, down, up, down, up, down. They have no idea. It's like schizophrenic mortgage rates.
I know.
Talk to me. Tell me. What's happening?
Yeah, so I subscribe to a service that I trust, I watch anyway, and yeah, it's been interesting. Kind of like not going to be looking at my phone constantly because there's just been one notification after another about rates continually increasing, which is, kind of stressful. I care about people, I care about clients, and there's people that are like, caught in that. What do I do? Do I lock? Do I wait? Are rates going up? Are they going down? I don't know. I would assume they're going up. So I guess I wouldn't wait to lock. If you're on the fence about it, I think I would just do it. Find out what your options are. Maybe there's a different term. that would give you a little bit lower rate. Think about that as an idea. But yeah, so I think the Fed doesn't really know what to do either, honestly, with what's going on. They're trying to control inflation. I think most people have heard of this federal funds rate thing that's been increasing. They increased it already. They're talking about doing it more. So they're getting more aggressive about that, and that's not had a good impact on mortgage rates.
Well, it's a lot of things going on.
It is a lot.
There.
It's not just that. Yeah.
No. And so are you getting folks that are locking in earlier than normal?
I think people don't really know what to do. It's a mindset shift. So
Right.
we came away from 2-ish to now 4-ish, mid-4s.
Mid-4s?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yep.
my gosh.
It's gone crazy. So a lot of people are like, it's hard to get people to put it in perspective. 4 something is good. It's really good. Even if they get to 5, that's not bad. But when you're in the mindset that it's 2 something, and now it's 4 something.
Sure.
It's a psychological thing.
Right.
It's hard to get past that.
I have a bet with Bob Call, who's an appraiser. You know Bobby. And I told him 5.2 before the year's up. And he says, no way.
What does he say?
Well, he doesn't believe we'll hit 5. And I said, trust me. I said, we're
not far.
Right. I said, we could hit it by August.
Yeah.
And, but, you know, it's an interesting mark. Here's what you need to know, folks. This is the important part of this conversation is that the market is volatile right now. That's, I think, a good phrase to use. You need an expert on your team, in your pocket, around you, protecting you. And we're going to talk about some statistics later, where I'll show you where when there hasn't been competition, what happens, and when there is competition, what happens. So, but you need that expert. You need that buyer agent that's there. And remember, in Wisconsin, it doesn't cost you anything most of the time to have buyer agency. When I say most of the time, there could be a fee, or there could be a buying situation where the seller is not willing to offer the buyer agent a commission. So, and those are all negotiable. Don't let those get in the way. I want you to have the representation. My mouth's not working. Representation that you need to protect you and to guide you through this process. I'm still bothered by some of these offers. As we talked about last week, in Dane County, 90 and 100,000 over asking price, and the 100,000.
That's actually happening.
It did. Yep. And we talked about this. And the one that got me was the house was 375,000, sold at 475. There is no way that house was priced correctly. Just no way.
Yeah.
Something happened there. There was a blip or something. I'm not sure, but it's a little interesting. Hey, today we're going to talk about luxury. We're going to talk about historic homes. I met this gentleman online on Facebook, I think it was, or in our luxury group that we have, and we started chatting. Found out that he has his own show, and so I'm going to be on his show tomorrow.
Oh, cool.
I know. I have to talk Boston now, I guess.
Boston?
That New England stuff.
At least you don't have to park your car. And just go online.
Find out if he's a Red Sox fan, I guess. But I found a gentleman that has doing similar what we're doing. He's doing a podcast, which I think is very powerful. It's a classy show too. I really enjoyed it. But what's really cool about this guy, Larry, and I'm talking about you, and you can listen. That's okay. Is that he started out as a commercial photographer, as a professional life, and then. But he's always been known to be a straight shooter, and he's got curiosity, and he has a curiosity and creative listening that have been an integral part of his daily life since that time, and knowing and not guessing has fueled his interest in the process and procedures of his life. He studied at the University of Pennsylvania folklore. I love this. I can't wait to have this conversation. And here's what you need to know, Laura. This is really cool. Today, Larry is a partner and director of marketing at Your Stories Realty Group, which is powered by Castles Unlimited and a member of eXp Realty.
Look at that.
I know, right? But he's also involved in his community, especially with the Milton Historic Study Committee and historical groups, where he's the chairman of this. And Larry Lawfer, Larry Lawfer, welcome to the show. You're very welcome. Glad that you could join us, and I'm excited about joining Broker Talk tomorrow. It's tomorrow. Oh.
Part of the luxury home marketing, where we both have that designation because we sell luxury homes.
That's correct. And I got to tell you though, luxury homes here in Wisconsin, in the greater Dane County area, is a little different than in New England or Massachusetts. It's definitely different.
Well, we will get to that, but I think that the understanding of what luxury is in real estate is really critical. Luxury goes from town to town, from community to community, and it is based on the top 10% of the market, on the market at that point. So what is considered luxury in real estate fluctuates from town to community. In my town, it's going to be considerably higher than it would be in Wisconsin or Texas or somewhere in the Midwest, just because it's way too expensive here.
Now, do you work primarily in just luxury? And we're going to talk about historic homes later, but are you working primarily luxury, period?
When it's all over and done at the end of the year, my biggest number is always luxury in terms of gross sales. But that's also the smallest number, because if you sell a property at $4 million, you know, that's one property, but that's a big number compared to people who are averaging sale is maybe $250,000. So you've got to do a whole bunch of those to get to $4 million.
Do they have $200,000 homes where you live?
Not in my specific community, but in and around Boston, yes, they do.
I thought it was always like $1 million everywhere, even the row type homes, even in Philadelphia. I mean, right?
A bunch of investors that I work with as well. And in terms of my particular what I do, I work an awful lot with out-of-state, out-of-country investors who want to come in and tap into the rental market here. To rent a property costs as much as if you could buy the property. So investors are coming in, buying up these rentals, and we're renting them for them.
That's interesting. That's extremely interesting. Here's what I want you to know about Wisconsin right now. So in 2021, the end of 2021, we saw a 33% increase in listings, 43 of homes $1 million and higher. Now, I say $1 million homes, this could be lumped in with farms. I mean, we're Midwest and we have to have farms and all that are in there. But of the 103, that was a 43% increase over 2019, or 2020, I apologize, and at 1.38 million on average, which is, I'm sure, a lot less than your area.
But let's not compare the areas, Bill, because I think that's unfair. Because every area, our $4 million luxury property is probably the same kind of house that your $1.5 million property is in Wisconsin, sitting on a beautiful lake. For instance, just the area in which it sits. And I'll say again, it's expensive in New England. It's expensive around Boston.
Well, when I moved out here 30 years ago from North Jersey, Paramus is where we were, we got out here and we bought a house that was 2 acres and 2,500 square feet, and we paid $67,000 for it. $67,000. It was just for us, and we lived in the Ramapo Mountains also, and so loved the East Coast, missed the East Coast terribly, missed my skiing at Stowe, Vermont and all that, and going into the city for a show, that was always wonderful, but a little bit different. I like to share with people the difference in the communities because it's exciting for them, and they can't imagine a $1 million house and then less a $4 million house. But have you seen your luxury market increasing comparably to what we're seeing?
In my particular market, we are seeing, if we're talking specifically luxury properties, they have more people who can buy them, so there's a little bit less traffic than that. So their days on market are a little bit longer than the regular days on market, which are kind of nanoseconds here. You know, you make something active that's not a luxury property, and you have 15 people standing at your front door in 20 minutes. So it's kind of ridiculous. The listing agents who proudly declare themselves, I sold this property in a weekend for, you know, so much over, you know, you could do that dead asleep.
Right.
No, I agree. How do you feel about that? Those big numbers over asking price. Has it hit you in a way it's hit me, where I feel like we're underpricing our properties?
Yeah. Well, we could. You have a friend who's an appraiser, as do I. Appraisers look backwards for information that they can use to substantiate a new price. But in a rising market like we've had the last 2 years, there's no back to look towards. What you have to look at is what's under agreement. You have to actually talk to those agents because they're the ones telling you what the market is bearing. So if you wait a week and that property goes under agreement and that number hits the market, it changes all of the property prices in that area and maybe makes it appraised for an astronomical price.
Yeah, I mean, it's been an interesting situation within a rising market, and Bill had mentioned at the beginning of the show, some of that is dramatized, I think, but I know it is happening that people are offering $100,000 over asking price. That just really concerns me, obviously, but if they need financing, that could be a whole nother situation. So appraisers do have to use a certain number of properties that were sold within a short time frame, within a close vicinity, 10 miles usually, but that just isn't always the case, and especially with the luxury market, there just might not be that pool of data, like you said, looking back. So they do also have to factor in homes that are currently on the market, how they compare and what they're listed for. They can't be like in the primary three that they can add that to support a rising value, but appraisers have their work cut out for them too.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it's driving them crazy, to be honest.
Yeah, appraisers have to be able to legally defend price, where agents, we're full of puffery. Oh yeah, this is a wonderful home, and it's certainly worth $100,000 over. There's no legal ramifications for elaborating.
Yeah.
That's never a good tactic, though. Telling people honestly what's going on is always the best tactic.
Agree. Yes.
Absolutely. I mean, to me, I struggle with it. Larry, I am a spreadsheet junkie, I guess. I love to do research, and I go down rabbit holes all the time looking at all that data. And of course, I mean, I want to say things on the air about what's happening in our industry, but our code of ethics tell me I cannot. But I could tell that. I'll tell that to people privately. But
you have to behave yourself.
Well, and that's hard to do.
Creating, it's kind of forcing us all, I think, to step up our game a bit. You can't just, I mean, your clients, your buyers, and your sellers are relying on you to know the data, to know the numbers. You don't want buyers feeling like they're going into a property offering $100,000 over the current value. Is it or isn't it? You have to be able to explain that, right? So was it underpriced? And if you say that, here's the data that supports what I'm saying. But we need agents, lenders too, just anybody in this game right now who is more professional and offers you the data that you need. What a huge decision you're making. If you're buying $1 million or a $4 million property, I don't care. Even if you're buying a $300,000 or $400,000 property, it's huge, and you need to know the numbers.
Here's something interesting about our market right now, year to date, and how it's trending. And that Right now the median price for our luxury homes is at 1.25 million, and of that, I want to say, I can't remember how many offers there were. 13 offers. 17 offers, or 17, gosh, I can't even talk this morning, solds that there were. 9 of them had competing offers.
9 of 17.
9 of 7, and 53% of those were over the asking price.
This is in the luxury market?
In the luxury market itself.
So in our world, in Madison-Dane County world, that would be what, over 500,000? Over
750.
750.
But I put it at $1 million and higher because of our conversation today. 3 of those that were in the competing area sold for less than asking. And if you look at the chart on it, it's crazy. But we're 31.5% above assessed value.
Woo.
I know. But I don't know if you guys track that out there, Larry, or not, but it's an interesting number for me.
Well, there is always a relationship between assessed value and sales value. And the way I explain it to my clients is assessed value is what the town needs to run the town. It is what your buyers want to pay to live in that town. So there's always a relationship, and that is one of the numbers that I look at before I make offers to clients. But I want to share with you 2 things that make a difference if you're working with buyers and you're looking to beat out the competition. Everybody thinks it's all about the money. And in a large sense, the money is the driving force, but it isn't the only force. So if you are working with buyers and you're deathly afraid of your offer not being seen as good or viable, talk to the listing agent. Ask the listing agent, besides money, what else is your seller looking to do? And I have closed deals because I asked that, and the listing agent told me, well, this house is too small for them. They had their 3rd child and they're going to a bigger house, but their first son, who was born and grew up in this house, wants to have his 9th birthday here. And so we need to, if they could, they'd like to stay an extra month. And because I asked that question, I added it to our offer, and we got it under what the biggest offer was because we gave them what they wanted.
There you go. Yes.
I think what you just pointed out is that if you're working with a specialist, if you're working with an agent, this is what's going to happen. These are the results that you can achieve. And that was strategic and just smart as hell, to be honest about it. I mean, Nicely done. Nicely done.
I've heard agents say that it isn't the best or the highest necessarily. No. It could be that. It could be time frame. It could be relationship between listing agent and buyer's agent.
Right.
It could be lots of things other than price. You're right.
Agents want the same thing all buyer's agents want. We want to get a deal done with someone who's not going to be a problem along the process.
Right.
So from the get-go, when you go into a property, you are broken with those people, with the agent. So be friendly, be professional, find out what their day is going, how their day is going. Because if they like you, they may pick you out of the offers when they present them and say, I think this guy is going to be able to get it done for us.
You know, we have, I've had a situation here, is that the communication between realtors needs improvement. It needs vast improvement, because I've had agents send offers to me, not call me about a showing they're going to go to, and they lose every single time. I've had people send offers that have never been seen, and they go, well, we sent you it by email. I'm like, okay, I get how many emails a day, and whether there was no communications. And Larry, what you just pointed out so nicely was that has such an advantage over everybody else's situation. I mean, we had one, Laura and I recently had one in January, Ben and Natalie. I mean, they were not the highest offer. But because of the conversation with the agent and the family and all that, I got a nice deal. But it's communications with the realtors. It's that professionalism that we have to keep. Don't you think?
Well, absolutely. Hey, by the way, agents out there, pick up your phone when people call you. Get back to people.
Oh my gosh.
That's a simple best practice, and so many agents don't do it. You'll call them, they'll text you. If somebody communicates with you in a specific way, mirror them. That's just, again, best practices.
Yeah.
Stop trying to insert yourself as some kind of alpha. Do what you can to mirror the co-broke and give them what they want, because that's better for you.
Yeah, I agree. I wanted to come back to luxury homes for just a couple minutes, then I'm going to switch to historic homes with you. The question I had for you is this. Are you seeing the folks that are buying the luxury homes, where are they coming from, and are they new money or are they old money?
Are you talking about my area?
Yes, sir.
So in my area, the people that are buying these luxury homes are quite often masters or mistresses of the universe. They're high-end CEOs, CMOs, COOs, working in medical or tech or biological, because we have so many great companies that are here. Those are the people. The out-of-country people, the Chinese money, cash money coming in, they're not buying the luxury properties. They're buying properties that they can make profit from. And so they're in a different price point.
Are you seeing your luxury buyers moving more rural now because of the pandemic? Or are they staying in city? Or
again, it's because everything is packed in here, you can be out of the city. Like my town, Milton, sits on the edge of Boston.
Right. So
I can be in downtown Boston or the financial district in 8 minutes or 2.5 days, depending on traffic. There's a lot of public transportation, and people here quite often take public transportation. You can take what's called the T. It's a subway that services the greater Boston area. And you can see CEOs standing right next to students. And so the only time there was an outflow of people was during the pandemic. Nobody wanted to be in those luxury high-rises right on the Boston because they had to get in elevators with people and things. But that has stopped now. And new people are moving back into those luxury homes downtown.
So I remember when I lived out east, there was the Big Dig. Is that still going on? All the construction work downtown, the Big Dig?
Never ends here. The Big Dig is done. That tunnel is in, but there's always more stuff going on.
I remember traveling through there, going to a baseball. I got to go to a Boston Red Sox game once upon a time, and a delight to go to. But the only thing better was the Cubs, the Tigers, and of course the Brewers. But I had to get baseball in the conversation because Laura is a huge Cubs fan, and I'm a huge Brewers fan. But hey, I want to switch gears. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Please. No. My apologies.
I got my license my first real estate license in 2009 in Dallas-Fort Worth. I have a Texas license as well as a Massachusetts license.
Wow.
And I was down there to open an office and be their director of marketing, and I thought if I was going to do that, I should have a license so I can speak with some authority. Well, after 9 months, I realized that a New Englander doesn't belong in Texas because they kept calling me a Yankee.
Oh, yeah.
And I said, I'm not a Yankee. I'm a Red Sox. Fenway is a great place. So is Wrigley Field.
Oh, yeah.
Old stadiums are just fantastic places to watch this wonderful pastime.
Oh my gosh!
Absolutely.
But Veterans Stadium was the best. Watching the Phillies play, you could go to the outfield for $1, and that was a long time ago, by the way.
Yeah. Well, the Connie Mack Stadium is long gone.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, that's true. Hey, let's switch to historical homes because your background in this, and I would love for you to talk a little bit about the organization that you're a part of and the role that you play in the community. And then I want to move on to how do you define as a realtor a historic home, and then the next part will be how do you price these things? Because I have no idea.
Good question, Phil. So let me just give you a little background. Historic homes, when you're listed as an historic home, there are 3 ways you can be listed: by the federal government, by the state government, or by the local community.
Oh, wow.
Each one has its own criteria and its own benefits and drawbacks.
Sure.
So in Massachusetts, there's, I think, 302 communities. Only 167 of them have local historic districts. So, and Milton, my town, is not one of them. But Milton has 6 federal historic areas and something like 1,000 something state, because to be considered historic, any person all they have to do is write a letter, send it to the Historic Commission, and then you get on that database. That doesn't change anything with your property. It just gives you, bragging rights on an historic home. But what we're facing here in Milton is what constitutes historic.
That's what I want.
Is it Suffolk Resolves? That is a beautiful center entrance colonial built in the 1600s, where the Quincy and all of the New England founders met to create what became the Articles of Confederation in Philadelphia the next year. That is here.
That's
so
historic.
That, of course, because of what happened there, is considered historic. But we have George H.W. Bush grew up in this town, and his house is considered historic, again, federally. It's not by the state, and it's not by the town. So is it historic because of what happened there, who lived there, or is it historic architecture? Those are the 3 criteria that we're trying to determine. Okay, so that's the determination. But here's the rub in all of this that I found out after the fact. Historic districts have often been used historically to curtail growth.
Oh, sure.
We call this an historic district so you can't put your condominium complex here. And that rubs against me. I think Milton was an agricultural town, and now it's a commuter town. It's going to grow. It's going to continue to grow. And 100 years from now, I'm hoping that our committee has figured out how to allow growth of the town and not curtail growth because of an historic district. Many people think that if your house is named historic, that you can't change anything in your house. That's not true. The law that's written is that you can't change anything from any public-facing area. So the front of your house or the side of your house,
oh, wow.
if that has been considered historic, you can't change that. But you can do anything on the inside you want. So it does, or it could, raise the value of the home. It also could lower the value of the home. Because if a home needs rehabbing and what you want to do includes the facade, and you can't do that, that lowers the value. Some buyers won't buy it.
You know, talking about the historical areas, I think of the Washington, D.C., Virginia, Northern Virginia area, where construction development are occurring around historical areas, battlefields basically, from the Civil War and that. And I think there's a way to do it and preserve our history. I could say, being a kid that went to school down in Richmond and lived on Franklin Street, I didn't like seeing my statues being torn down, those big, huge monsters. They were, 30 feet high, 40 feet high, but that's a whole different show, a different subject than that. But we can work with our history, and I like what you said about that. I mean, there's a way to do it, to preserve the properties and that historical. What's the word I want to use? What's the correct word? Not feeling, but
Vibe.
integrity, historical
Okay.
integrity, maybe.
Yeah.
Right. But
We want to have that, but don't we also want to allow our town to grow
absolutely.
and to evolve in the way that it wants to?
Yes, sir. I agree.
And that, to me, because I live in this area and I love history and well, I studied folklore, which is folklore and folk life, and what that is the study of traditions that are passed down verbally. Before we had written language, how we know what to do came from stories from our elders.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really what folklore and folk life is. And I've always been fascinated by that. And this responsibility that I have now is I realize that I'm going to be in that history book. So I don't want to screw this up. So years from now, people say, yeah, but he was an idiot.
You're where you've lived, where you went to school, or when you were at University of Pennsylvania. That whole eastern side, that coastline is just so powerful with history. And I used to go to Valley Forge all the time, and just to think about that. Not as much as a young person, but the older I got, the more I respected it and had that experience. Or Gettysburg, and you living in from Doylestown, all around you was history. And I love history. I can't get enough of it. As long as it's reported correctly. I have to say that with everything that goes on today, but just having that understanding and being able to go, wow, I can't imagine what just happened here. Washington's Crossing down in Jersey and that. Just delightful. To me, it's an enjoyable part of our living, our society.
Yeah, it was wonderful to grow up there, and the town I now live in is similar to that in some ways and dissimilar because it's Massachusetts and not Pennsylvania.
Right, that's true. So tell me about pricing of these homes. Now, my way of pricing is just like every other realtor out there in the way of looking at what our comps are, what's the history of it, what do we know, and what do we currently have in front of us when we're pricing homes. But the historical value, and I'm making an assumption, Larry, and please forgive me for that, is that the historical side has a different way of pricing those properties. Is that true? And so how do you do that? What's the science?
Well, again, why is it historical?
Right.
If it's historical architecture, then it's worth more because you have this Frank Lloyd Wright building sitting, and that has a cachet about it. But if it's historical because there's an area in Milton, and it's called the Railway Village, and it really isn't a village at all, but it was a place where the granite from Quincy, which is another town right next door, was being cut and then shipped through Milton, through Railway Village, to get onto the Deposit River so it could be floated to Boston to make all the granite buildings. Well, none of that exists anymore, but it's still an historic district. So in that area, the smaller homes that are there, it's in an area called East Milton, and the price points in East Milton are considerably less because the houses are considerably smaller. They were the original workers that, worked the granite mines or worked on the railroads and things like that. So in that area, that doesn't mean anything. There's no fluctuation on your price because it's not luxury. It's just historic. But how you price luxury homes is a little bit different. And some people might not know this, but the larger your square footage, the less your price per square foot goes. Because the real value in homes is kitchens and bathrooms. That's where everything is expensive. So if you have a 2,200 square foot home and you've got this luxury, designer kitchen and bathrooms, that's going to be more expensive price per square foot than a 4,000 square foot home with the exact same kitchens and bathrooms. That price per square foot is going to be less because it's cheaper to make rooms without expensive appliances and utilities.
Okay.
Laura's sitting here looking at me going, she says, I don't get that.
Trying to get my brain around it, yeah.
Because what I find here is just the opposite. Isn't that interesting? I mean, it's because I track square footage. It's a trend here that doesn't happen. There is no trend here. People do not use square footage. I track square footage because I'm that geek and I want to know.
Some people do, though. Some buyers are savvy because I've heard them say, what's the price per square foot?
Sure.
So some do, but I would say most don't.
And the luxury market.
True, Laura. They will track that, but it's one of the 17 ways that appraisers use. Just one of them.
One of them, right, yes.
If you know all of them, then you can look at it from all those different prisms and probably come up with a better price. But I tell everybody that pricing is both a science and an art.
Agree.
Art is what you're doing, Bill. The art part is, what does the agent think the market will bear? And why do they think that?
Yeah.
When I first started in 2006, I started with luxury, residential income, and commercial. Those were my focuses, and it was just sellers. That's all I would work with. I didn't work with one buyer unless they hit on one of my properties, and then I would work with the buyer on this. And I came from healthcare. Over 25 years in healthcare, and as a distributor, we'd sold the business. I thought I was retired, blah, blah, blah. And my wife at the time, so I had a non-compete, couldn't do any healthcare anymore. And my wife at the time convinced me to get my real estate license. I didn't want to be a tour guide, but she said, go get your license. What she also said, Larry, at the end of that, which you've not heard before, she said, either get off the couch or get out. But I didn't know she meant that.
Right.
But when I started, and I started at luxury, and that was, I went there because I went where the money was. And, I could sell $1 million house, and it would take somebody else to sell $100,000 houses.
More bang for your buck,
right?
Yeah.
But the focus was the same client. If it's a luxury home, they probably have investment properties or income properties, or they should, and they probably have a business or commercial or need to rent that. And
they run a big. What was your comment, Larry? They're the mistresses and misters, maybe, of big corporations.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And so I did that. But here's what I was getting to. I had people coming to me and going, "How did you do that? How did you know how to sell $1 million home?" I'm like, well, I sold it just like I would have sold any other home. I just called people, or they'd say to me, "How'd you get that listing?" Maple Bluff was an area that I concentrated on, and I was part of the country club and on the board and all that stuff, and I kept getting the business on it. And but people kept saying to me, agents kept saying, "I don't know how you got that business."
I asked.
Yeah, but others say, I'm not comfortable with that. I'm like, well, why? They put their pants on the same way.
Well, you got to do your research. I think your comment about being a tour guide is really interesting, because I think that a lot of people have a misunderstanding of what a realtor does. I think they think you just walk them through a property and maybe do some paperwork for them. They don't really understand
No.
what the good ones do
Right.
to price properties correctly, to help their buyers offer appropriate prices,
Mhm.
and it's way more than that too. So I think it bears repeating, you are not a tour guide.
Oh.
There's a whole lot more to being a realtor.
The largest home I've sold is $3 million, and I'll tell you that's a different buyer. $1 million home is easy to sell. It's easy to market, but the $3 million in our area, you better know your stuff. You need to know your architecture. You need to know your designers. You need to you have to have that feel.
Finishes, you know.
Wouldn't you agree, Larry?
The difference between a Miele and a Sub-Zero. You know, specifically, you need to understand granite versus some other kind of stone. You need to understand floor work, you know, and wood, and why is bamboo so popular, because it's, you know, you need to know all of those things.
Yes.
And even having working with people here, JoJo was one of them. I'm spacing on the name of the company right now, but I used him several times, where I would bring in a designer to talk about the property, to look at it, to give me insight, and then work on the photography, which I know is one of your expertise, Larry. And I'm curious if you shoot your own photography, by the way.
I do not. I hired the guy. I had a video company, and my main shooter is the guy I still use. I sold him that company, and I use him because I'm an agent now. Photography, but I don't, and I can do good photography, but I don't even have the latest cameras.
Yeah.
So that's not. I hire professionals to do a professional job.
When I go out and we're shooting, we've been doing video and still for everything, not virtual. I can't stand virtual, but we started this years ago and started working with a company, VRX now, and worked with me, got the music of Billy McLaughlin, a friend of ours, but video is so powerful, and I wish we would make it a standard. But now luxury, I honestly feel that an agent that's not using video in a luxury home, maybe they should rethink their career.
And drone, right?
And absolutely, drone on almost every shot. Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
So it gives you a way to look at the property that nobody else could. Or in Newton is, you know, maybe 10 miles away from downtown center. You can rise up enough where you can see the house and then tilt up and see where the city is. That gives you a perspective.
It sure does. Yeah, that's really key. I have a question going back to historic homes. Do you have enough that are selling where you feel like you have appropriate data to be able to price it correctly?
I'm so glad you asked, Laura, because I'm ready with this question. I went back today and looked at what's going on in the market in Newton, which is where my corporate office is. We also have a downtown office, right near Fenway, by the way. But in the last month, we had 8 new listings, and new is the last 7 days. Average size, 3,500 square feet. Average price, $1,924,000. We have 26 active listings. The size goes up, 5,607 square feet. The average price is $2,873,000. So we jump in price and we jump in size.
Huge.
And we had 2 properties in the same market that dropped their price. But when you look at it, the average size is 7,298. That's a huge home.
Oh my Lord.
List price was $3,450,000 down, because it's less expensive to build those bigger houses. 23 sold. So we had 26 that came active, and we had 23 that sold. That's what's going on all over the country.
Yeah.
Is we can't keep our inventory. That's not even a month of inventory. An average is 6 months.
At $3 million.
4 expired or canceled listings, and the size then came down. The expired was 2174. That is a nice home, and it was only, oh, listen to me, only $699,000.
What a bargain.
75 days.
Why?
I don't know how I missed that, but I've already looked up this person's home number, and I'm going to call them because I have somebody who will buy that.
That's funny.
I don't know how I missed
There you
that.
go. There you go. That's the way to do it.
I'm sorry?
No, I said that's the way to do it. Look up the phone number and call. Why did it expire? What's
Yeah.
your thought on that?
My experience tells me they had a bad agent that allowed them, the seller, to determine what the price was,
Yeah.
and they never fought back after 10, 12 days and nobody came through or nobody called. Buyers are savvy. These
Oh,
not fool them about what values are, because there are all kinds of things out there where they can check it, and they do. So price it right, and it could be a seller who's an idiot.
Shh,
I want, because my next door neighbor got more.
that's exactly right.
Yes.
This is better.
Yes.
You know,
Education.
stupidity is national. It's not local.
Hey, oh my God.
It's actually international, I think. Yeah. Yeah.
We have about 9 more minutes to go in the show, but I wanted to ask you a question about with luxury in your area, especially condos. I would think. Are you seeing investors that are buying properties and then putting them into Airbnb, VRBO?
Some can, some cannot,
Oh.
because the communities, and it goes town to town. Like Boston's mayor, who's now head of transportation, I think, for the Biden government. He's Marty Walsh. He's one of those guys in Washington now. Decided that he didn't want Airbnb or Verbo to be there because he didn't want all the transients in and out. And what actually was happening is cash buyers were coming in and buying these properties knowing that they could do this, and then it took that property out of our rental market. So that was the issue. They wanted to keep, we don't have enough affordable rental in this area. And so you can't Airbnb and Verbo in some towns.
Right. We have.
We're going to other towns to do just that.
Oh, sure. I think it's a viable market. Oh my gosh! But here in the Madison area, the downtown area, we're at the University of Madison. In the rental areas, depending on the neighborhood, you really have to be aware of this if you're an agent. And I know agents that have been caught blindsided by this. You can rent the property as long as one of the owners lives there. And they did that to control student housing. Now, student housing here, the closer you get to the stadium and the university, I always say the stadium, it could be $1,000 a bedroom to $500 to $1,000 a bedroom, which ain't bad, as they say.
Wow.
You know, but
No, in our area, it's $1,500 a bedroom.
isn't that something?
Wow.
Yeah. It's. I wonder if, because you mentioned your wife, get off the couch or get out. I have done. I give back a lot, and so I have won a bunch of awards and accolades on that. And I would bring them home, and I'd be so proud. I'd show them to my wife, and she said, "Larry, we don't need any more gold stars for the refrigerator."
Okay, I've heard that conversation somewhere before. Wow. All right, it's not unique at all. Oh my gosh.
That's why we marry women who are smarter than us.
Oh, good answer.
Oh, Laura's like, yes, that's right. And,
Very good
and what
answer.
I'm going to say is, yes, sir, because I say yes, dear, a lot.
Mm.
And,
Smart man.
well, she's
You
always
are
got the
learning.
best ideas.
Terry has the best ideas?
She does, always.
Well, there you go.
And I let her, I thank her often for that.
That's good. Gratitude is always good.
Let me ask you this, kind of like our final comment here. I want to save this time for you. What would you say to people that are listening in our greater Sun Prairie area about selling their home, whether it's luxury or not luxury? What would you say to them?
To at least 3 agents.
What?
Minimum. Talk to 3 agents. Ask them what they would do for you. If they come in with a canned presentation from their franchise, throw them out right away because they don't know what they're doing. You really have to be specific. What can you do for me? So when I make a presentation to someone, I go in with, EXP, and I was Keller Williams. I think you had a time at Keller Williams. They provide you these presentations. I would go in with, remember the CD, and show it on your computer?
Absolutely.
Go in with that. And I would hand it, say, let me plug in my presentation, which will probably take us about 45 minutes, or I could just ask you these 20 questions and we could focus on your property. Which would you rather do?
Interesting.
Do the canned presentation.
No.
Everybody wanted me to ask them questions about what they want to do.
And that's where you shine, right? Because you know exactly what questions to ask. Yeah.
I had a feeling you were Kellerized. I could feel it more than anything.
Kellerized.
Kellerized. I call it Kellerized. It's great training. It's great education.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And I'm not going to say anything negative about the franchise, because they all are pluses and minuses.
Mm-hmm.
Really, the thing for all the agents out there listening, work with good people around you. Work with people that listen and are available to help when you need help. Work with people who are smarter than you,
Yes.
and you'll get better.
Absolutely. Yep. Have a trusted board of advisors.
Yeah, that's what I like to say too. I tell you.
Yeah.
Hey, we're coming to the end of the show. Larry Lawfer, I want to say thank you. Thank you for being. What a great conversation. Come visit us. Laura's got an extra room. We'll put you up in a nice place. Honestly.
I won't charge you $1,500 per bedroom either.
And for your audience out there, check in Broker Talk tomorrow, broker-talk.com, and listen to my interview with the great Bill Baker.
Ah.
Look at that.
I can't wait. I am looking forward. What's it?
Eastern time. Yes.
That's right. I forgot. I got to put that on my calendar.
Good point. 2 o'clock here.
Just
Wisconsin people.
Wisconsin
2 o'clock
people.
here.
Hey, don't you know?
We don't talk like that.
Well, they'll be listening and eating cheese curds and drinking
right? Yeah.
Spotted Cow.
A beer.
And
Yes.
Larry, thank you so much. We really appreciate
Thank
it.
you. Have
What a
great
gentleman. All right, bye now.
day. Bye.
Larry Lawfer. There you go, folks. Showing you just a little bit, a snippet of what it's like in other parts of our country, Boston area, the possibilities.
It's crazy everywhere.
Yeah, and if you're an investor, there are investor connections all over the United States. You don't have to be here. We've talked to one before, Patriot Properties, Chris and Jacob Walters and all that, pulling investors together to do those Airbnbs, things like that. But this is just to give you a taste of what goes on outside of our world, and I hope you enjoy it. Sherry St. Marie was one of the last ones. Mm-hmm. We've had them from St. Thomas, so we're going to continue to do that. Hope you enjoyed the show. Laura, you're the best.
You are.
And then don't forget tomorrow to watch us on Broker Talk, brokertalk.com. That's broker-talk.com at 2 p.m. Central.
Yes.
And Sun Prairie, have a great week, and I'll catch you on Monday. Thanks, Sun Prairie.
Bye, Sun Prairie. I like him. I like Larry. Prairie.
Yeah, me too. We're on
Cool
Facebook.
guy.
Yes.
I just
Facebook, you're awesome. I hope you like that. I'm sorry about the recording. We're trying to figure out how to connect the sound to Facebook through the computer, to the Gavitsit that goes to the doohickey that makes the
Woo.
thingamabob work. I know. And then next week, we may be on KSUN. Laura's like, what?
Yeah.